Hey, I'm tired and I made this. So, I'll start off by saying that I intended for this to be a speed paint, but the hardware I have my art program on doesn't have great storage. I hope to figure that out soon, so in the future I can do some speed paints and redraw these four lovely ladies. These guys exist in the world of RWBY, and they are the members of Team Kuro, led by Kaiosagi. So, I've been a fan of RWBY since the beginning. Like, literally, I remember waiting for the yellow trailer to come out. I fell in love with the characters, the premise, and the world, and as a quiet, creative youth, I, of course, had to create some characters of my own. I was actually inspired to revisit my OCs by ABD Illustrates. He has this really cool video where he redesigns and talks about his own RWBY OCs. I'll put a link in the description, so go check it out. You can actually watch the drawing process, So if you're unfamiliar with RWBY, there's a few things I should probably touch on. One of the cool things about RWBY is that the creator of the show actually gave out specific guidelines on character creation, specifically in regards to naming conventions. They are as follows. Rule number 1, a character in RWBY must be a color, something that sounds like a color, something that means a color, or something that makes you think of a color, and 2, if that character is on a team, then the first letter of their name must fit in a 4-letter acronym that spells a team name, which must also be a color, something that sounds like a color, and you get the gist. I'll talk about rule number 2 later, because in this video I'm really just going to focus on one character. But before that, I should also touch on the fact that every RWBY character also alludes to a character from a fairy tale, myth, or a legend. Following these rules helped me to create Kaiosagi, the first RWBY character I ever designed. She is based on Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Having Alice in mind helped me figure out things like her color palette and certain aspects of her personality. For example, I imagined her as a lighthearted goofball with a fondness for tea and cake. She also loves collecting rabbit-themed things. With the color naming rule in mind, I named her Kai, which means ocean, to evoke the thought of blue. This, along with the fact that Alice is usually drawn wearing a blue dress, helped inform her palette. As a side note, Alice also did cry herself an ocean of tears in the story, so yeah. Her surname, Usagi, means rabbit. I chose this last name because of the white rabbit, and also because I wanted her to have a sort of moon motif. There is, in fact, a legend about rabbits who make mochi on the moon, and the moon pushes and pulls the tides of the ocean. The whole thing was just a fun game of connect the dots for me. For her design, I really wanted her to have this sort of tomboyish vibe, and I wanted to make sure that what she wore made sense, considering her fighting style and weapons. Speaking of her weapons, Kai wields a set of gauntlets and greaves called Vorpal Mortars. They're named after both the Vorpal sword and the mortars those rabbits use to pound mochi. When I put the words together, they just worked. These weapons are similar to Yin and Mercury's weapons, except the gauntlets have blade components, which confuse with dust. As a little aside, I got the idea to add the blade from Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist and Echo from Pandora Hearts. I also want to point out that, yes, Kai does in fact have silver eyes, white lines and all. That was a choice I made pretty early on, like since Volume 2 came out, and it was really just because, number 1, it melded well with her look, and number 2, as the universe developed, I just felt more motivated to keep them. The idea right now is that she inherited the silver eyes from her mother's side of the family, the idea being that they are descended from a long line of renowned huntresses. As of right now, these powers are still pretty dormant, but also still pretty crucial in the story I've written so far. I think that's it for part 1, but I am working on putting together a story and videos for the rest of the team, other characters, and more. There are definitely a few things still concerning Kai I should cover later, but I think that's all for now. I appreciate you for staying to the end and just listening to me talk. It's been a dream of mine to put something like this together and to be confident enough to put myself and my ideas out here like this. I wish you the best. Whew, I should go to sleep.